What?
Good evening. This is America's Mayor Live with Rudy Giuliani and my bosses, Dr. Maria and Ted. No, but it does come with significant recognition that I am the talent and you are the bosses. Now, I just completed my show on Frank's speech. I hope you get to watch that. And I should say Frank's speech because it gives a wrong impression. It's like it belongs to Frank. Well, who the hell is Frank? I had an uncle named Frank. He's a really good guy, but Frank speech, meaning honest speech. And I think it's being called now the FSN network. And I hope in the future I can call it the FSN network. How about, even if it stays Frank's speech, we can call it the Free Speech Network, because we sure as hell need a free speech network. And if we ever needed any proof of that, I'm being called now by the administration of free speech, which in the Biden administration means the censorship commissar, who is going to come and take all our property under direction of, well, we don't know who, because Biden is on vacation. Kamala is writing up her cheat notes, which, given the fact that she failed the bar exam, it can be quite an endeavor. Let me see. I'm trying to remember, is there any bar association that lets you bring cheat notes in? I thought there was a bar association once that wanted to do open book exams. But open book exams are different than cheat notes because you got to do research. And I've often thought, excellent. I've often thought that ideally a bar exam should be done with books because lawyers answer from books. Problem is cheating. If you have books, they could stuff little things in it. And so it really should be done the way it's done. Just to get the level of her stupidity or lack of competence and the DEI attached to her entire life, which means promotion based on gender. I don't know. I mean, I think when she was younger, I know Trump got into a lot of trouble for this, but I think she grew up more as an Indian American. Her mother was Indian and she lived with her mother. And, but whatever advantages she got, because back then you would, I don't think Indian Americans get the advantages they did get at one time. But in any event, she certainly got advantages nobody else got. How about the very biggest one? She wasn't selected because she was the best candidate for vice president, even the most politically helpful, particularly. Well, maybe. She was selected because he narrowed the field based on a pure application of DEI, or how about inequality, and said, I need a woman. Boom, half the population gone. And I need a black woman. Now about 90% of the population gone. And I'll pick out of that. And he sure as hell didn't pick by any means the most talented black woman. He didn't even pick a talented one. He picked a dope. I don't know. You can't interview her and figure out she's dopey. I've interviewed probably 1,000 people in my career. And I think 1,000 is not an exaggeration. I certainly, for U.S. attorney alone, interviewed about 200 when I was a U.S. attorney. It's also associate attorney general, partner in several major law firms. I've done a lot of interviewed for campaigns. I think 1,000 is maybe it's 800. And therefore, I think I've developed some skill as an interviewer. And I interviewed well enough to select a staff that did historic things. I think I'd have thrown her out. I mean, I'd have been nice. I was not as abrupt as I am now. As you get older, you tend to suffer fools less gladly. But I didn't hire some pretty famous people. 'cause I didn't think they'd make good prosecutors. If I listened to her and she did those, they call them word salads, which are very generous. They really are irrational statements, which shows a mind that cannot critically think. Now, that is just out and out true and frightening. We've already gone through a cognitively impaired moron in the White House. Now, from coming from a different angle, we got another one. Uh, let's start with the Afghanistan debacle, because I do believe it's the focal point for a lot of the disasters that we have in the world. And I compared it on the Frank speech show to the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand and the princess in Sarajevo, Serbia in 1914. That was, believe it or not, not a particularly significant event. I mean, horrible, obviously. We're not saying, but I mean, it wasn't like the assassination of the Prime Minister of England or the Chancellor of Germany that you might think would lead to a world war, or an attempt on the President of the United States. Uh, it was hard to even know for most people in the world what the exact motivation was. But within, I think, a month of that, Hungary declared war on Serbia, and the whole world went to war. I mean, the 100 Years' War and the 30 Years' War could have been considered world wars at the time, but this was the first war denominated as a world war. And the point that I'm trying to make is something relatively little can ignite something much bigger when you have lots of tensions in the world. Right now, we have lots of tensions in the world. Remarkably so, because I think, unless you are the most unfair person in the world, you would have to admit that Donald Trump left bumbling Joe and cackling Kamala a peaceful world. Let's take a look at Afghanistan. A year and a half of nobody dying in Afghanistan. What he was doing was laying the groundwork for a careful, wise withdrawal, with certain things not even on the table. It wasn't even on the table, as I confirmed yesterday with Colonel Shaver, and with him many times. There was no thought of giving up Bagram. Bagram was independent of, had nothing to do with Afghanistan. Bagram was there to protect us against China, 400 miles, protect us against Russia, 500 miles, and protect us against Iran, 400 miles. Where are you going to get an airbase like that? Biggest runway, I think, in Asia, maybe in the world. We had already put billions of dollars into modernizing it for our withdrawal, meaning we had every intention of being there. Biden's crooked military, the guys who turned out to be traitors, the one who said he would warn China if Trump were to attack China, have no idea why he wasn't court-martialed for that. But in any event, they opposed it, but they didn't have the guts to come out and protect their country, because those, look, you have to respect the military. You got to respect generals. But then when you're the commander in chief, as I told the president, don't get all impressed with the stars. They can be very much merited, and they can be there because the four of them could show that this guy was a 4-time ass licker. It's true in my police department. You see the inspectors with the things, go find out how they got them. Some of them got them because they were great at their job, and some of them got because they knew the right people. Some of them got it because they're crooked as hell. I'm sorry. It's a human organization. We have a great military. At its best, it's the best in the world. At its worst, it's a human organization. And when you run it, you better not get goggy-eyed about it. Now, Biden's not goggy-eyed about it. Biden's just plain crooked. And so are the rest of them. So when you look at Afghanistan, Afghanistan means, without any doubt, the invasion of Ukraine. Putin doesn't invade irresponsibly. He invades unfairly, unjustly, inhumanely, and in an evil way. But I mean, people have got to start to think critically and speak carefully. When Trump says that Putin is very impressive and very smart, he is damn correct. And you better think of him as very impressive and very smart because he's your adversary. I used to box a long time ago. Stopped doing it when I realized people could hit me. And you underestimate your adversary and you're lying on the floor in the first round. You never underestimate your adversary. You can be a much better boxer. You underestimate the guy who's going to knock you out. So Trump's handling of these people is ingenious. If they'd stop hating him and look, they'd realize this is Ronald Reagan redux. Very, very much the same talents as Ronald Reagan in terms of negotiation. Now, remember, Ronald Reagan was the head of the Screen Actors Guild at a time of tremendous historic stress. He was the governor of a state that was in revolution, and he kept it from being in the sorry condition it's in now because of wavy-haired Hollywood boy and cackling Kamala. So that was a yell of agreement. So without Afghanistan, a lot of people would be alive. And I want you to consider the consequences because there was a hell of a revelation yesterday that, of course, is underplayed by the media, definitely underplayed by the pervasive, crooked elite media, or are they elite? I don't know why we should call them elite. I don't know what to call them. Crooks, scumbags. What do you want to call the Times? And there's not a word bad enough. Pravda revisited. I don't know. Not enough people know what Pravda is. I don't know if Pravda was as bad. I really do think there is a percentage of deprivation of free speech in this country that exceeds most of the rest of the world, including some dictatorships. It certainly is tantamount to the. I mean, you get about as much news in Russia and Iran as you do in the U.S. That's true. I think you might get more true in Iran. I'm a little more familiar with Iran, but a lot leaks out in Iran, and that's how you end up with the protests because the economy is terrible. They don't do a particularly good job of lying about the economy the way Biden. No inflation. How about this statement from Harris to point out why she failed the bar exam and why she needs notes? We don't have inflation. We just have high prices. I think it's quite possible she knows less about the economy than law. I mean, look at her economic program, price controls. The Democrat Party doesn't have a platform. That whole thing was a ridiculous, embarrassing, insulting Hollywood production of overgrown hippies. I mean, it looked like a conglomeration. It was, let's bring together what is it? Bring in the clowns? Is that song there? Bring in the clowns? Yeah. Bring in the communist clowns. It is a very sad song. It's a very sad country under these people. And I'm gonna go through a group of markers of communism. I'm gonna ask you to think about it, and then over the next week or two, we're gonna discuss them, because I want to show you that the job that we are asking the next president to do is not to save us from being a socialist communist country, but to bring us back from already, in many respects, having installed socialism and communism in key places in our government, either state, like Walls, the operative of the Chinese communists, or cackling Kamala. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Bear the principle of common delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. America's Mayor live from Manchester, New Hampshire. Live free or die. Ooh, I love that.
They used to elect Republicans here.
They may again. They may again. I think this is a toss-up state, and I don't think you can do lean Trump, lean cackling at this point. Example. Let's pick a toss-up state. Michigan. Michigan's a toss-up state, lean Trump. Virginia's a toss-up state, slightly lean cackling. Pennsylvania is a toss-up state, lean Trump. Minnesota's a little more than a toss-up state because of Tim the communist. I'd say it's beyond toss-up, but not impossible for Trump. I want you to know that what we're going to do starting this Friday, we're going to do a segment on America's Mayor Live, and we'll also do a little bit of it on Frank's speech, in which we give you a prediction, and we'll be on the line for it, of the electoral vote and the states and which ones are changing. We'll do it every Friday now until the election, and I've brought in Ted and Dr. Maria to do theirs. So we'll have an electoral map, and we'll go through it, and then we'll ask you and then we'll analyze it, at times during the week if you have questions about it, because remember, it gets decided by electoral votes, and it is interesting to hear 48, 47, or whatever, but the real critical thing is what's happening in Virginia, what's happening in Georgia, what's happening in Pennsylvania. There are about 9 to 10 states that'll determine it. And there are about 40 states that we can pretty accurately predict already. So we'll show you that on Friday. I think we're working on our map, and I think it'll be a nice new segment. And then we'll have your participation in it. So I was going to tell you about the indicia of communism that we have. We don't have free speech. Zuckerberg certainly put the final touches on that with his extraordinary letter in which he admitted the largest campaign finance fraud in the history of this country, $400 million to help one political party. He also admitted the biggest First Amendment cover-up in the history of this country, the hard drive. And then maybe the second, if not the first worst, which was the COVID, which led to the death of people. People died as a result of their putting out false information about COVID. People didn't get medicines that they otherwise would get at the right time because of that. And I know people whose lives were saved because we ignored their bullshit. It wasn't just the usual political lying like Tim Walz does every day. It was significant. Now, Tim Walz does significant political lying, particularly about being an operative of Red China. But he does a lot of, typical pathological liar stuff like Biden. So free speech in the category of certainly would equal a communist state. They've got about as much or as little free speech as we do. Children becoming the property of the state. Is that complete yet? No. Is it substantially on its way in the crooked Democratic cities and in Tampon Tim's Minnesota, which leads the way by allowing kids from all over the country to come there, get mutilated, not tell their parents, and worse than that, their parents are not allowed to intervene. That is a purely Marxist doctrine. You could only believe that if when you were sent to China 30 years ago as an impressionable young jackass, which I guess he was, you became a communist. Because one of the major themes of Marx and Engels, particularly Engels, the book that he wrote as Marx was dying, was the necessity of making the child the property of the state. A major, major effort of Stalin and of Hitler, and a major effort of Tim Walz and everybody else among those communist governors, the dictatorship governors. I don't know if you were listening to my podcast during those days, but I would say they're showing very dangerous tendencies. They're showing the usual tendencies of socialists to become dictators. I was talking about Cuomo. I was talking about Murphy in New Jersey. I was talking about Whitlis in Michigan, and I was talking about wavy-haired Hollywood boy in Hollywood, and a couple of others. Mandates that were entirely hypocritical, just to show. And then mandates that were fatal, like putting old people in hospitals. Walz did that as much, if not more, than Cuomo. There very little that Walz didn't do that shows that he's an operative of Red China or pretends to be one. What he's doing on the ticket, I mean, it's a crime that he actually is on the ticket. You put a guy that's as tied in to our enemies as that on the ticket, it shows there's something wrong with you too. And we know there's something wrong with cackling Kamala. How about the government becoming in control of everything? In control of every industry they can touch or look at? And how about government by mandate? Governments are laws are decided by votes, not decrees. That's a dictatorship. Biden's got about 150 of these. The whole border situation is by decree, contrary to the law. And then, of course, cackling Kamala's price controls, you might as well sign up as a communist if you're in favor of price controls, which she's now limited to groceries, which is the worst of all. Now, when I say she's limited, she doesn't answer any of these questions. That's been leaked. Press doesn't get to talk to her. She's saying now they may get to talk to her once this month. Putin has more press conferences than she does. You want another indicia of communism? Neither Biden nor cackling Kamala talks to the press or informs the press or is transparent. The little jerk who does the press conferences lies every day. And I don't know where the lying admiral has gone, but They don't tell the truth about anything. And then he never shows up for questions. And she hasn't been questioned at all. She's the candidate of the leading party. And she wants to have notes at a debate. I mean, when somebody says they need notes at a debate for president of the United States, they should be immediately disqualified as the presidential candidate.
Insulted as a woman. She has finally agreed to be interviewed, but she wants tampon Waltz with her, tampon Tim. She can't do it alone. How's that? How do the feminists feel about that? That she can't do an interview alone?
She needs a man around to hold her hand?
Yep.
Where's Billy Brown? He should get some credit for her career, shouldn't he? I mean, Willie had a lot to do with it. She might not even be there if it wasn't for the extraordinary talent she displayed to Willie. Of course, she was the worst AG in California history and the district attorney that helped to cause San Francisco's demise. I mean, she's going to do for America what she did for San Francisco. Go take a look at San Francisco, but don't breathe too heavily. You could also get sick. How about the complete taking over of the FBI and the IRS as Biden administration apparatchiks and stormtroopers? They do the political bidding of the Biden administration. They go after conservatives. They ignore Democrats. They cover up the hard drive for a year, let a president get impeached, let a phony president get elected, and they lie about it. It was 4 years ago. Nothing's been done about it. Now, that same organization that tried to frame Trump 3 times, tried to destroy his presidency, tried to take him out, is investigating the attempt to take him out with a bullet. That seem right to you? Does it seem right that an organization that wanted to illegally remove you from the presidency based on a paid-for phony story from Hillary Clinton that it knew was paid for and phony is investigating the attempt to murder you? You think you're going to get a fair investigation? Please, if you do, you're not capable of protecting our children and our people. There's nothing about the FBI investigation I trust. There's nothing about the director of the FBI that I trust. He sat on that hard drive for a year, and so did Barr. But somebody's got to take a really good look at Barr. Got to take a good look at how Barr handled the Epstein case also. Where are all these people that Epstein was taking on the airplane? We know he was taking Billy Boy 27 times, but Billy couldn't see any kids. Apparently there were kids all around me and they couldn't see them. Too interested, I guess. I don't know. But so now we have more criteria of communism. Persecution of your political opponents, which goes back to before Trump, including conservatives, yours truly and many of my colleagues. Elimination of Trump by every means possible. First, the Russian collusion, paid for false story. Then the Russian collusion as a removal of a lawfully elected president. Then the phony Ukrainian bribe story that was proved conclusively phony by putting out the transcript, but actually could have been proved even more conclusively phony from the hard drive, which was covered up during the impeachment by the stormtroopers, by the FBI, and by Bill Barr. How many times did he get to eliminate this guy? Then when that didn't work, covering up the hard drive, using Leon Panetta to do it, lying like a complete traitor, putting his name on with a 51 spies who lie, and then having the gall to have him introduce you, cackling Kamala, and attack Trump at that phony Democrat Communist convention. Leon Panetta is one of the biggest liars in America, proven and disgraced. In any decent country, he'd be disgraced, dishonored. I mean, I guess there'd be countries where he'd have to commit suicide. I'm not saying that, but we're not old Japan. But what he did was dishonor himself and render his name a name of dishonor in American history. It was a straight out and out lie that he knew was a lie. He's a smart man. And that he did to elect a person that he knows is a jackass as president of the United States. If Panetta didn't know that Biden was demented, he knew he was the dumbest man he ever met, like Gates said, his fellow cabinet member or his predecessor, when we had, I guess, a real honest Secretary of Defense before we got dishonest Leon Panetta, the spy who lied. And then, of course, we have maybe the most dangerous of all, what is clearly the very strong alliance between the red Chinese communists and the Democrat Party. We know the connection to Trump, to Biden. Very substantial, right down to all that material that Biden stole as a senator and as a vice president, right in places where China could put its hands on it. You can't escape the fact that he put it in an institute that's funded by China. You can't escape the fact that he left it out in his garage with the partner of the top spy of China passing it for about 400 days. You can't escape the fact that there are documents that seem remarkably close to stolen intelligence documents from people close to Biden to the Chinese. You can't escape the fact that there is no explanation for giving a Bagram but bribery. You can't escape the fact that there's no explanation for not pursuing China over COVID than bribery. You can't escape the fact that they refuse to really take on tariffs with China other than bribery. And you can't escape the fact that Jack Smith is an out-and-out criminal. What he's doing now with this new indictment, if we had a judge that was honest, and we do not, the District of Columbia is badly in need of a vaguely, somewhat honest judge. How many times do you get to fix the indictment? So many years after the event and perilously close to an election, without the judge coming to the conclusion that you're not indicting anybody, you're trying to interfere with the election. What the hell how does he get to fix the indictment again? How many times is he going to get to frame Trump? This is a guy that's already been acknowledged as a framer, a dishonest prosecutor, 9-0 by the Supreme Court. No one asked the question, Garland, if you wanted an honest prosecutor, what you select this guy for? He already has a history of framing people. You think we're stupid? He doesn't know how to honestly prosecute. He never did. He's one of the few prosecutors where there is a recorded high-level case at the highest court of being a dishonest prosecutor who framed someone, got him convicted only to have it reversed after the man's political career was destroyed. It's exactly what you want to do to Trump. Why those cases just aren't dismissed is a testament to the fact that we've become a communist country. And we have a judiciary that in too many respects, not all over, but in too many respects is entirely dishonest. How many times does Jack Smith get to do it? Suppose he wants to change it again. And he's changing it right before the election. And what about the thing in Arizona, the 5th indictment? Jesus, I mean, they actually decided not to put Trump in because it would look too bad. But they put me in and Mark, and if they can't destroy him, they'll destroy us. And what do? We exercise the rights that we don't have anymore in America, the First Amendment rights, the ones that Zuckerberg helped to take away. We need to fix this, and we need to fix it now. If it goes any further, it will be irreversible. It's pretty close to that now. I was on with Bruce Laval in my earlier show. And it's going to take a lot of brave people to turn this around. These traitors are right inside the government. You look at that FBI, it is disgraceful. At the top, no one's saying all the FBI agents are guilty of this. They're not. But they don't seem to mean anything. Just because you got honest FBI agents don't mean they don't frame people. They're not preventing it. Do you believe anything about the investigation in Butler County? Why would you? Why would the FBI investigate that fairly when they wouldn't turn over the hard drive in order to keep him out of the presidency? If they ever turned over that there was a conspiracy here, probably elect him by 50%. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. I would like a cup of Rudy's coffee right now. I would. I know it's too late. Maybe. I could always have the decaf. And the coffee, even Rudy's coffee, I have to say, coffee is very strange. It's always very good. The bold is my favorite, but the morning coffee, I like bold coffee. So I guess I don't even know if I'm describing it correctly to you when I describe it as morning coffee. I think people think it's very light. Because when they have the morning coffee, they say that it's pretty strong. It is. I mean, you could. What do you think, Maria? She helped design the coffee to a very large extent. Yeah. I think people might get a little confused by the morning coffee.
The coffee, I'm so proud of what you did in my role in this coffee. It's great quality, 100% Arabica beans. That means they're grown at a higher altitude, less acidity, and more importantly, no pesticides are used. But the bold coffee is for people who are coffee drinkers like you.
I had it today.
The most
remember when you walked in, you said how it smelled?
Yeah, it smells so good. The most popular, though, I have to say, is the one that we're selling hand over fist is the morning coffee.
Yeah.
Beautiful coffee. And then the decaf coffee, again, most companies use chemicals to remove the caffeine. We use the Swiss high pressure water system. So no chemicals. So that's
why we did it.
Yeah. And now
we're not decaf drinkers. So
yeah.
Every once in a while.
We want to be as healthy as we can. And inspired by Theodore Goodman.
I was going to say, I wonder why do we do the cold coffee? Get a can.
Ted happens to like cold coffee. So he inspired this new, hold it up there, Mayor Giuliani, this new cold brew. And you're right, Ted.
It's a great one.
The most famous prosecutor of all time, the most famous mayor of all time, Rudy Giuliani. These could be collectibles. You are right, Ted. You need a raise.
I
I agree.
the president of the company.
You guys team up on this?
I have
No.
to say that
Dr. Maria, this is what we have to give Dr. Maria her due. She came up with these designs, and how awesome
She did all the designs.
Yes. Now, how do we get the other designs on the cans, though? Well, for iced coffee, I like iced coffee, but look at those cans. I mean, those are collectibles.
I know I shouldn't do it.
I don't even want to open it because it's.
Here, give me a glass. Give me 2 glasses. Ted and I can have a little. Well, I want you to have something low acidity, non-GMO, specialty coffee, 100% Arabica. Oops, I spilled some. Yeah. Oh, this is from Harvard Law School.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know if I should have. Probably anti-Semitic.
Harvard Law.
This is probably an anti-Semitic.
You spoke at Harvard. And take a sip for us. I will too.
I'll take a sip from the can so you get a nice picture of it.
Yeah.
I actually cleaned it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Take a sip there.
Okay, let's see what it tastes like.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, nothing in it right now. No sugar, no sweetener, no. And if you're going to use anything, use brown sugar, right, Maria?
Yeah.
Go for the brown sugar. Forget the calorie garbage and don't go with the chemicals in the.
Oh, so if you have to add, that's something I didn't. Yeah. Okay.
Do you use brown sugar?
Not for this. I drink this straight from the can.
You know, if coffee, I'm going to tell you this, and this I learned this, and we all did in our research. If coffee is good, you don't need milk and sugar. Fabulous.
Wow.
You don't need milk and sugar in this.
No.
Just like you don't need it in morning or bold. Now, my favorite is bold, but I can see why morning is the favorite because, and again, it's a little bit confusing because when we first talked about morning coffee, I didn't even know if we wanted to have it because it's like, oh, what if you say morning coffee to me? You're talking about, a cup of water. This is strong enough. And I guess, unless you're an Italian espresso drinker like me, I mean, I like even a South American espressos. Wow, they are even stronger than Italian, I think. So Biden is on a second week of vacation, they said in the Post. I think that really is not true. He's on an endless vacation. He's on a beat. He was freeloading from a billionaire for a week. We don't know exactly what he, gave him in return. We know he does. We know he's a crook. Now he's on a beach. And Kamala is nowhere to be seen. So we know what she's doing. I wonder if she's going to use little Post-its for her notes. Did she make any kind of definition of like what kind of, are they going to, like, if you say no, she could bring in like a pile like this.
But by the way, this doesn't satisfy the one-on-one interview. The fact that she hasn't done a one-on-one interview in 37 days.
Oh, she can do a two-on-one with a man?
Oh,
with a man. She's going to sit there with a man holding a hand?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge difference having anyone next to you in an interview as opposed to doing it solo. It changes the whole dynamics. It almost nullifies.
It's kind of an Is it an interview of the ticket?
Yeah. Well, that's how they're going to sell it. I want Kamala one-on-one. I want her to be able to go toe-to-toe with it. First of all, it's a reporter from.
It's one-on-one. You want to see what Walls is made of, not with somebody around. I mean, she can't help him very much. But,
yeah.
But I mean, you do want to see how does the guy handle himself one-on-one? Was she going to bring him in to meet Putin? I told you what Putin's going to do if she comes in with notes. He's going to grab him and tear him up and say, okay, give it a shot without notes and a teleprompter.
Yeah.
What would you like to give me, Kamala?
But we
probably wouldn't take San Francisco. It's too decrepit.
She's gone 37 days without doing a sit-down interview or a press conference.
Now, how does not, it would seem to me in a equally balanced America, if any candidate for president said, I will only debate if I can have nodes, the candidate would lose on the grounds that they're not prepared to be president and just admitted it. That's a hell of a thing to admit. Notes are used in exams to cheat, which of course, you know, I'm sure she's done frequently. I mean, who knows how she actually passed the bar exam? You can tell from her analysis, I can tell from her analysis, that she's really not a lawyer because she doesn't think like a lawyer. She thinks like an irrational person, and she expresses herself like an irrational person. Those are not just jokes when you hear those, what they call word salads. Those are irrational statements from a person of weak intellect. So let's, you know, we're talking about something enormously serious here. We have learned through Biden, this is a person who has the power of life and death. So let's stop all the bullshit. Let's stop all the worry about being called racist or whatever the hell else we're going to be called. And let's just talk to each other honestly. You know she's stupid. She said too many stupid things not to be stupid. The results of what she does are catastrophic. Let's just look at Borderzar. And when she defends herself, she says stupid things. How about her original defense to Lester Holt? I haven't been to the border, but I haven't been to Europe. Who the hell should be vice president of the United States that hasn't been to Europe? I mean, that's ridiculous. I haven't been to Europe? Do you know where it is? Do you have any idea of its history? You know, you have to, this isn't a make-believe world, which is what the Democrat convention was. These are real world decisions, and they have consequences. Like, if you're stupid enough to take the troops out before the civilians in a country surrounded by terrorists who want to kill the American helping civilians and the Americans, you get them killed. That is what I just did with a logical, goes back to Greek logic, which is actually a book written by Plato based on Socrates. I'm sure Kamala doesn't know that. She certainly doesn't know how to do it. I mean, you never would have. If you were at that meeting with Biden way back when he destroyed us in Afghanistan, and you sat there, and you were the last one in the room, and you walked out on a decision that gave up Bagram to China, or gave up Bagram ultimately to China, but gave up Bagram 400 miles from China, gave up a massive strategic advantage. You didn't recognize that, and you didn't object to it. You're either too stupid to be in government, not just president, or you're a traitor. I'm sorry. I have a logical mind. I want you to think about it again. It's 400 miles from China. China has announced that they want to supplant us by 2048. China wants to do it in many ways, including militarily. China has built a bigger navy than us, and we've allowed them to do it. And there's nothing in the Biden budget. There is no Harris budget, except price controls. We're going to have, accounting for inflation, a 3% reduction in defense. Our Navy is smaller than China's. Our Army is on the way to being smaller than China's. So does it give you any idea that China wants to do this militarily as well as other ways? They are building airplanes that can go further into the Pacific, so they can reach our aircraft carriers and destroy them. They are building hypersonic aircraft along with the Russians in order to evade our vaunted missile defense. And we're reducing our defense budget. And we gave up an air base 400 miles from them, which gives us an advantage that cannot be compensated for in an era of aerial war. The longer it takes for an airplane or missile to get to its target, the greater chance it can be intercepted. Is that logical? Okay. When you're 400 miles away as opposed to 4,000 miles away, it's much harder to intercept our still scientifically advanced missiles and planes over China. Almost impossible to defend. I lived through this and I defended it in the Court of Appeals of the United States. One of the things that won the Cold War, please, Kamala, don't even listen, you won't understand it. This is not for people who failed the bar exam. When Ronald Reagan deployed the intermediate range ballistic missiles, he won the Cold War. I know people would say it was Reykjavik, and to some extent it was, and they would say tear down the wall because it was very dramatic. But this was a key part to it, because here's what he did. The European countries, given the weakness of who used to be the worst president, Carter, exceeded by communist Barry and Bobo, Carter didn't look like he had the balls to defend Europe. Europeans got exceedingly nervous and they pressured Carter. And Carter agreed to deploy. They were afraid that if Russia were to attack them with a middle level atomic weapon, like now, let's say Russia were to use a middle level atomic weapon in its war with Ukraine, right? But here we're talking about NATO countries, right? That Carter wouldn't have the balls to respond with a nuclear attack defending them. And many of these countries have not become nuclear because they're depending on us defending them. This is an intricate thing, so follow it. And it really does point out how incredibly irresponsible and how dangerous it is to have these people in government. So the European countries prevailed on Carter after a lot of to build and to organize, and maybe they originally prevailed on Ford or Nixon, and Carter had to carry it out. I'm not absolutely sure. I have to go back and check that. To build intermediate range missiles, put them in European cities, so that if European cities were attacked by Russia, these missiles would respond. And it wouldn't depend on an intercontinental ballistic missile coming all the way from the United States. You got it? Okay. Carter, of course, being the ultimate, I'm sorry, he's old and he's going to die, and I even like him, really secretly supported me when I was thinking of running against Hillary. But he backed off. All the lefties yelled at him, and he did what they all do when the lefties yell. Okay. We won't deploy them anymore. And Cy Vance, the father of the useless DA before Bragg, helped him. I mean, these were terrible, terrible Americans. This is the era of, the big long lines for gas, the era of our hostages and the helicopter going down in the desert. And oh my God, it's like a little bit like Biden trying to build a dock in Gaza, and it cost us $240 million. We still don't have a dock. But they don't emphasize that anymore. Democrats don't know how to manage. They're too damn ethereal. And in many cases, they're too damn dishonest. So Reagan comes in. Reagan says immediately, screw Carter, as he did in many respects, right? He got hostages back like that, they were peeing in their pants when Reagan was taking the oath of office, just like they will when Trump takes the oath of office. They don't want to die, except maybe the Ayatollah. And they can't predict Trump, just like they couldn't predict Reagan. So Reagan says, okay, let's revive the plan. And he says, we're going to put missiles. Let me see if I can remember. I argue this case because 27 communist Democrats tried to prevent it. They actually tried to use international law to prevent him from deploying it, went to court. Got argued in the district court and the Court of Appeals, and we won. I argued it personally. That's in the era in which U.S. attorneys actually tried cases. I think I was the last one in the Southern District of New York to do it. We were going to put them in England, Germany, Italy. Now remember, this is when the Soviet Union still existed. We couldn't put them in Poland. Poland was part of the Soviet Union. There were probably two other places, but those are the three prominent ones. And the day before or 2 days before the deployment, ABC did a special trying to frighten the American people and make Ronald Reagan look like a warmonger who wanted to cause nuclear war. They did a piece called The Morning After. It was the first of numerous shitty journalism on the part of a news organization that might as well sign up. They used to be an adjunct of the Democrat National Committee with Stephanopoulos. Now they're an adjunct of Red China. And it's the most dishonest piece about Ronald Reagan, who hated the idea of nuclear war much more than they did, and understood the gravity of it and the immorality of mutually assured destruction and the danger of it, which now is illustrated by the Biden, Harris, and everyone giving all this money to the Ayatollah, who is exactly the figure that Reagan feared, the irresponsible person with an atomic weapon. So he pointed the missiles at the Russian cities. Russia went crazy. They went crazy. They went absolutely crazy. It scared the living down. They didn't have missiles like that. It drove them crazy. And then, of course, he did Star Wars on them, which Biden and all of the liberal Democrats opposed. Israel wouldn't have Iron Dome if it were up to the Harrises and the Bidens and the Tampon Tims and all those Israelis would be dead. You just think of it. Just think of it as a wonderful life, if Jimmy Stewart hadn't lived. If Reagan hadn't lived, all those people would be dead. If we had listened to the communist sympathizers that made up the Democrat Party then, like Dukakis, and they would not have the Iron Dome. Comes from us, comes from President Reagan. So it is of critical importance that we rebuild our military to being so strong that the thought of going to war with us has them quaking in their boots. And they have to believe that an American president has the strength to do that if he has to. Not boots on the ground, boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. Oh, no. Oh, we don't want to widen the war. We don't want to widen the war. No. Oh, Bibi, stop. No more with Hamas. You might destroy them. Well, wait a second. They want to destroy you, jackass. No. Now, I don't know if that's just pure cowardice, like Walls not wanting to go with his unit to Afghanistan, or it's being a communist sympathizer, like apparently he is. I don't know which it is, or a combination of both. But you cannot have weaklings and traitors running your country if you want to survive. And we do, and we will, if you make a mistake again. Now, I'm not going to say you made a mistake, because Zuckerberg has made it pretty clear made it pretty clear that there were at least 4 separate major attempts to fix that election. 4. So I think I'm owed an apology when I say the election was fixed. It's now been admitted that it was fixed through withholding the hard drive. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to be back with a little soccer time and some things that I have to fill you in on so that we get around the Iron Curtain of censorship enacted by cackling Kamala, Tampon Tim, and all of the communists in this administration.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Rudy Giuliani complaining to his staff.
We don't want to kill the ratings, Mayor. They're here to watch you. They're here to watch you. And Dr. Maria.
Wait a second. If they get a look at Dr. Maria, we get a much big male audience.
We get a
we get a bigger female audience.
Okay,
So let's forget it. Okay. Me, I get, no, I'm only kidding. I'm sure you can put up with the fact that I'm ugly. So, because we're equal, whatever we are. Here are the things I got to let you know that you're not going to find out about. Well, that, the president, the real president replaced Biden, who's on vacation, and Kamala, who's making up her cheat notes at the ceremony yesterday for the memorial to the people who died needlessly because of Biden in Afghanistan. And then made a beautiful and really terrific speech in front of the National Guard, where Timmy Tampon was an out-and-out deserter and didn't make reference to it, credit to Trump. He shouldn't. Let us do it. It's true. Let's get it out there. And they just use that. I mean, in the best of circumstances, he should be able to do it. But given the way they use it against him, I like the way, I like the idea. I think. Here's the reason why Trump sometimes has to do that. I'm going to tell you from the inside of the 2016 campaign. Only way to get it out. Because of the denial of free speech. So somebody like cackling Kamala doesn't say anything. Like the other day, somebody said, well, she's backed off her price control policy. Well, she's never said that. She'll talk to the press. Somebody has said that. You know how often presidents walk away from what their staff says? Doesn't mean anything that the staff said it. They'll say, well, my staff said it. We don't know what her position is right now on anything. She's the candidate of the Democrat Party, and she hasn't been interviewed in 38 days. I mean, she's literally running away. Well, she doesn't have to run away because they don't pursue her. I can't imagine this, having been a mayor who had a press conference every day. And my goodness, I knew I didn't have to have one every day, although one of my predecessors, Ed Koch, did. David Dinkins broke it up, but even Dinkins had one a week or two a week. And I was actually advised to keep it that way. In other words, Dinkins went back to the older scenario and keep it that way. And I decided that I had a problem a mini problem compared to what Trump has, but a major problem then that the press was against me. They were all lefties. I was the third Republican mayor in 100 years and only the second one who was going to remain a Republican. And they misinterpreted on purpose everything I did. And I decided I had to be omnipresent. I had to, that's why I'm good at it. I had to do what Bannon and I had to do in 20. I had to go around the iron curtain of censorship and personally deliver the message that crime is down. They wouldn't tell them. Or that I was responsible for the reduction in unemployment by workfare, or explain why I was doing workfare, that I wasn't running a plantation, that I was trying to help people, or invite them to come in and listen to me talk to poor people and tell them that I love them, or talk to homeless people and tell them that I love them more by trying to get them off the street, even if I have to use some tough love. I knew I'd have to be omnipresent. So because I had an agenda, I was mayor for a purpose. She's not president for a purpose. She's a cackling moron who wants to be important because she's too stupid to be important any other way. She was a horrible AG. She was a horrible district attorney. She didn't pass the bar exam. She was a horrible lawyer. And she's a silly person. And she's apparently a woman who can't go to an interview without a man. I mean, this is I'm telling you, ladies, you're not breaking the glass ceiling with a woman who has to hold a man's hand. You're gonna hurt the effort. Just like you're hurting the effort by not standing with us to get men the hell out of women's sports. She's in favor of men and women's sport. She's in favor of what happened in the Olympics, men beating the shit out of women. And boy, are they in favor of mutilating children against parents' advice. How can you vote for somebody like that? And would you please take a good look at abortion? They want to kill 7, 8, and 9-month-old babies. Put the rest of the debate aside. That's homicide. In many jurisdictions, it's a double homicide if you kill a pregnant woman 7 months pregnant because the baby's alive. Dr. Maria was describing to us today how they do it. I know how they do it. I've seen it. They take the baby out in parts. And when they passed that law in left-wing communist New York, there was a standing ovation for ripping baby body parts in the assembly chamber and a party. In Chicago, they had a truck going around from the organization that began by wanting to eliminate the black race, Planned Parenthood. And by the way, those of you who care about blacks, which includes many, many white people, certainly the descendants of white men who died trying to free black men and women. They're doing a pretty good job in New York. I mean, 2 years ago, there were more black children killed through abortion than were born. That isn't the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be rare under I feel your pain, Clinton. Another bullshit artist of the, you know.
Mayor, you predicted this. You want to hear something out of Michigan?
Yeah.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson denied RFK's request to remove his name from the ballot, but she just attempted to remove Dr. Cornel West from the ballot, but she lost a court case that she's now appealing. My goodness, right? That's so obvious what they're doing.
She also destroyed the records. and should be in jail for a felony.
Jocelyn Benson is a diehard Democrat
She
Party
described the
activist.
records
Somehow,
of how they cheated in the 2020 election. They also are ignoring perjured testimony on behalf of a company I can't talk about, including the Republicans. It's disgraceful what they're doing in your home state.
this is another example of them stealing the
Now,
damn
how-
election.
how-
This
how-
is rigging.
If you are a citizen of Michigan, Republican, how can you sit by and watch that
Yeah.
and tell me they want a Democratic election, small d? She wants to keep Kennedy on because it might hurt Trump, and she wants to take the other guy off.
Pete Hoekstra needs to stand up. The Michigan Republican Party should
Where
be.
she belongs. And why don't they ask her to produce the ballots that she destroyed? Maybe they came from the big truck that came in at midnight or 4 a.m. The one where I got disbarred by the Democrat hack hearing officer, who is a former judge who won't get another job by the Democrats if he doesn't disbar me, because I called it a sanitation truck instead of a big truck. But I wasn't wrong about the fact that it had thousands and thousands of Biden ballots brought in at 4 a.m. when they claimed they had stopped counting. You have no idea how crooked New York is. My lawyers don't want to appeal my disbarment because I couldn't possibly get a fair hearing in the New York Court of Appeals that already fixed all of the rearrangement of the gerrymandering. The court was reorganized corruptly. The governor, so they could reverse the unbelievably fair decision on gerrymandering that occurred 4 years ago in a Democratic court with 2 Democrat hacks who also completely corruptly reversed a criminal case of some note. Now, I'm going to get a fair hearing from them.
No, please.
If any of them did, they'd be finished in New York, finished. You know, I got disbarred on a record in which 3 hours of a 12-hour tape is missing, and they deceptively present. Oh, come on. I can't argue the whole case with you. I've got to really talk to some lawyers that aren't part of the system, I guess.
This is.
I mean, you can't believe the unbelievable dishonest to the point of criminal presentation that went on, combination of the Bar Association and the Democrat courts. Remember, please, I'm not crazy. The judges are appointed by the county leaders. The county leaders are Democrat hacks. The county leader in New York County is Bruce Wright. He puts Engelmoron on the bench. He puts Mershon on the bench, not you. Engelmoron had no opponents like in the Soviet Union. Engelmoron could be removed by him if he wanted to. He just told the chief judge, send Engelmoron to Mars. The other guy, Mershon's not even properly elected. They could stick him picking up the garbage. Meanwhile, his daughter's making a fortune attacking Trump. Bruce Wright runs it. His father was Let Him Loose Bruce, who probably is responsible for lots of deaths and lots of beatings, according to Ed Koch, who used to call him Let Him Loose Bruce, because he let criminals go by the scores, left wing as they come. That's who decides on our judges. And they're not going nowhere unless they do the bidding of the Democrat Party. Manhattan County, Queens County, Brooklyn or Kings County, and the Bronx. Staten Island has a 2-party system, so therefore it has a real court. This is what happens when you have a 1-party system virtually for 180 years. like in Chicago, Democrat for 60 years. I'm sorry. In these old, I'm not sorry, I'm telling you the truth. These old Democratic cities are corrupt as hell. And that's where the Democrats chose to do their cheating. And that's why they won their court cases. And that's why they get people like me and Eastland and others disbarred for being lawyers with phony, criminally produced testimony. Either the crooked AG in Georgia or the crooked lawyer for the Bar Association removed 3 hours of the tape. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. Because they're not honest. They don't have integrity. They're a crooked system, and nobody has straightened out our court system. And 160, since Boss Tweed. I mean, I straightened it out in the sense that I appointed very, very good judges, most of them gone now. I interviewed every single judge that I appointed. Ed Koch endorsed me. And then he got upset with me because I wouldn't reappoint 3 of his hacks who had been involved with Donald Maness, who committed suicide because I caught him taking bribes. He had the same job Bruce Wright has in Manhattan. He had it in Queens. And every judge, I know too much. The reason they want to get me is I know too much.
Mayor, this is a short video clip from the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, and what appears to be a threat. I want your opinion. What appears to be a threat to local election officials on certifying the vote.
So they're doing it all over
Yeah,
again. So 2024 is 2020 all over again.
Yeah. Well, let's listen. How do you interpret what she's saying here?
Violate the law and not certify the election at the local level, we will come for you. So any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it because we'll get. If certifying the vote, don't even think about it because we'll get.
That's it. Here. She's basically.
So here's what she's talking about in Detroit. They had to certify, if I recall correctly, there was a commission, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, or 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Every time they counted the votes, there were more votes than people. They couldn't, with something like 30% of the districts, they couldn't square the votes with the number of people. The Republicans didn't want to vote for it. They got strong-armed. And 2 out of the 3 voted for it being threatened. Then they withdrew their vote. Then they got threatened again and voted again. And never would they produce the documents. Like Georgia, they would never show us the paper. They kept the paper like that. Yeah, and
she's saying
which?
She's saying the certifier must certify. What's the point of the certifier? If you must certify,
well, she puts it by the law. By the law. They have no interest in the law.
Yeah.
The law. What's the law? You certify it if it's accurate, and you don't certify it if it's inaccurate.
Or you're getting complaints from thousands of residents.
Somebody can appeal.
Yes.
And then somebody can appeal. Of course it's a threat. It's a threat to cheat. And this is deja vu all over again.
They're doing it again.
Well, I think we should make a big deal out of this tomorrow because nobody else will. I mean, this is, everybody's afraid to talk about the 2020 election and how they cheated. I mean, that's why we left ABC, right? WABC will not talk about the cheating in the 2020 election. And here's the point. If you don't talk about it, these crooks will do it again.
Bingo. Bingo. That's why they're trying to silence everybody. That's why they let you off the air months before the election.
This woman, if there was an honest FBI, would be in jail for destroying records. The guy who testified falsely before the Michigan legislature would be prosecuted for it, and the people who aided and abetted it would be prosecuted for it. But they were afraid to do it. And a lot of the people that are most afraid are the people in the media who are afraid to cover it. Because they've been intimidated, including some of the conservative media. So, I mean, not only has to beat Cackling Kamala and Tampon Tim, he's got to beat the media, he's got to beat the corporate elite, and he's got to beat the cheaters, the crooks. And they got a lot at stake. We win, she goes under investigation. She knows that. The new U.S. attorney in Detroit first targets her. She's admitted her crimes.
No, she's
there. That's complete election interference. I think she tried to remove Trump from the ballot too earlier.
yeah.
She's another one who decided to take unilateral action. She could just remove Trump from the ballot.
Crazy.
And she wants Kennedy on the ballot because she's hoping he'll peel off. But you see, Kennedy should do a major campaign there
In Michigan.
Against her.
Yep.
Against her.
Yeah. He should go.
He should demand her prosecution.
And I hope that our friends in the Michigan Republican Party are making a big stink about this.
You got a funny party there. I got to tell you, I dealt with some pretty squirrely Republican parties.
Yeah, you did.
Arizona has a pretty squirrely Republican Party. Georgia doesn't. Georgia with Burt and a couple of the others, stand-up people. Even Pennsylvania has some really stand-up people. A couple were nervous, but at the end they came through. But I would tell you just straight out, Ted, I don't mean to hurt you, but you had the most corrupt of all. Michigan had the most corrupt Democrat and Republican Party of all. Pennsylvania second, Georgia third, Arizona fourth, Wisconsin the least.
Well, the least.
The least, but enough to cheat.
Well, we'll have to.
Actually, not Wisconsin, please. I was really being unfair.
Yeah.
I should limit it to cities. Detroit, Fulton County, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, and Madison. Madison may be worse.
Really?
Maybe. I can't remember in detail. Madison may be worse. Milwaukee is the place where they went into nursing homes and got people who were demented to vote. And they have families willing to testify that their elderly people don't remember voting.
Oh, wow.
But they ruined the retired judge who did it and made it sound like he was some kind of I don't even know what they made it sound like.
Something,
He
right?
was a very respected judge. He came up with a conclusive opinion that Trump had won in Wisconsin.
Oh, well, they couldn't have that. Yeah.
And they said he was something. I don't know what he was.
Something he probably was.
It's like me, he was.
Yeah, but it's all, and now is the time that they're.
All of us who disagree with them are criminals. All of a sudden, I've had a lifetime of law enforcement, a lifetime of scrupulously trying to comply with every law I could. And because I disagree with them on Trump, they want to destroy my life.
And by the way,
That's America.
And they don't play by the same rules we do.
And I'm not doing this. I'm not saying this to say, woe is me. I'm doing this to point out that the same thing to this judge. And, after a while, you stop getting judges who are willing to do it. Or I stop getting people willing to defend me, which is part of my problem with the Bar Association. They really won't fight for you. You saw it in court. They're afraid to stand up and fight for you. I had to do it myself. And then the judge wants to hold you in contempt. Please please straighten out our beautiful country, please. It was a beautiful country. What a great justice system. Not perfect. We had so many things we had to fix. And nowadays they seem so small compared to we now are a communist system. Well, there's a lot to go. We've got a Brooklyn imam in Bay Ridge, which used to be one of the most Republican parts of Brooklyn, calling for the annihilation of the Jewish people. Nice, huh? An imam. We'll get you the tape tomorrow night. He's calling for the annihilation of the Jewish people in Brooklyn, New York. There is a poll out. Now, tell me this isn't Berlin in the 1930s. There's a poll out in which, if I have it correct, 44% of college students and recent graduates said they rarely or never feel safe identifying as Jewish on campus. 44%. That's not rampant anti-Semitism. That doesn't make you worry that we're moving toward Nazi Germany under the Democrats? Look, Cackling Kamala's beloved niece is a big supporter of Jewish annihilation. See, that's what the Palestinians want to do. River to sea, throw them in the sea. The Palestinians are trained to eliminate the Jewish people at 2 years old. And then when they finish that, they want to get America. Kamala's beloved niece is a big supporter of them. You think Kamala is? I do. 81% of college students and 61% of alumni, okay? Think about this. Said they avoid places and events and situations as Jews because they're afraid. That is what Berlin was like in 1931, 32, 33. In fact, we're beyond where Berlin was. They burned things down. They burned down synagogues. We've had a pogrom before I became mayor in Crown Heights. 60% have even witnessed faculty members making an offensive anti-Semitic remark to them or someone else in their presence, which gives you an idea that one of the things the Chinese communists and Russian communists have done is to infiltrate Tampon Tim's profession. Tampon Tim being a great example of it, having been brought to China as a young man to get brainwashed. I'm sorry, you don't go back 30 times unless you were brainwashed. You don't say that socialism, one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness unless you've been brainwashed. You don't say that your best vacation was in homicidal Red China unless you're a communist. And you don't pick as your wedding date Tiananmen Square so you'll always remember it. Tiananmen Square was the slaughter by communists of innocent people, unless you interpret it as a Chinese communist. And 74% rate this. Let me get this right. A vast majority of the students participating in the survey, 76%, believe anti-Semitism has gotten worse, while 83% of students and alumni call rampant anti-Semitism a very serious problem. That's up from 74% who thought it in 2021. They certainly didn't think it when Trump was president. Where does that come from? Straight from the Democratic Party. Because they either are Jew haters or they sit by and allow Jew haters to dominate the conversation because they're afraid to stand up. Like in particular, the poster boy for it, the majority leader of the Senate, hopefully just very shortly out. That is Traitor Schumer. Never once has he stood up for his people, and he wants Bibi Netanyahu removed. He interfered illegally in foreign politics. Imagine, at a time of war, at a time in which the survival of your country is at stake, this son of a bitch bum wants you removed. Dangerous trend? Whoa. I watched several documentaries on Hitler over the weekend. This is Berlin in the 30s. We're on our way there. The imam in Brooklyn? What the hell you think is going on in Michigan? Yeah. Tackling Kamala and Tampon Tim sucking up for the extreme Islamic vote at the expense of the Jewish vote? What is that telling you? and nobody's standing up for the right of the Jewish people to eliminate Hamas, or making the point that all this stuff about killing children is orchestrated by Hamas and not being done by the moral and decent people of Israel, who would certainly not want to do that. You know that. They're like you. The Palestinians are not like you. You weren't brought up, I don't think, unless you went to one of these communist schools, with being taught to kill people. There's nothing prejudiced about facts and honesty. I'm not prejudiced against Palestinians. I'm realistic. They want to kill me. I wasn't prejudiced against the mafia. I just was against them because they wanted to kill me. So do the Palestinians commit crimes. Who steals all the money? We have put enough money into Palestine so it would be Monaco 5 times, and none of it gets to the people. The Democrats love pedophiles. They want you to certainly Walls does. I think they have. Now I may have Minnesota and California confused, but which one of them has created a civil rights protection for pedophiles? So you have to hire them. You can't discriminate against pedophiles in hiring. Is it California? That's the love pedophile state, the Democratic state that loves pedophiles, where they reduce the penalties for pedophiles. How about this one? A depraved pedophile sentenced to 350 years in prison for abducting and molesting a 5-year-old girl is going to be let out because California has, catch this one, an elderly parole program. If you're over 50, which is hardly elderly, and you've served 20 years, you're eligible for parole no matter what you did. I mean, you could have eaten a child and you're eligible for parole. And a pedophile, after all, there are actually Democrats. There are actually Democrats arguing that you have a free speech right to violate a child. Well, and there is a state that has actually created a sanctuary for mutilating children without the parents' consent. The state is called Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Minnesota. And the governor is the guy who puts tampons in the boys' room. Several schools have ripped, several boys have ripped the tampons out. And I hardly think a football coach would do that. Well, of course, he was a defensive coordinator and not a football coach, not the head coach. Although even that's, they lie about. A couple of lies came out yesterday about Walls I was going to tell you, but, you know, they weren't big ones. They're small lies. It's like Biden. He lies every day about everything. But the main thing, the big thing is there is every indication that he's a Chinese operative. And I'm going to keep saying that until he has a press conference and is asked the tough questions. Why'd you go 30 times? How much were you paid? What were the gifts that you were given? How many children did you take? What'd you teach the children? Why do you think that socialism is equal to the American system? Are you aware of the fact that socialism is the ism that has killed more people than any, that it's at the core of Nazism and communism? Are you aware of the fact that you are carrying out the Marx, Engels instruction to make children the property of the state when you allow them to be mutilated against the wishes of their parents? What the hell kind of person are you allowing that? Who the hell are you to be able to say that my child should be mutilated? A dictator? Okay, you got it, right? So I think we got everything. There is one question I want. First of all, I call your attention to the murder in Sassat, which is grisly. I read it this morning. I wasn't sure I wanted to cover it, but this guy, DeLucia, is his name? He killed his sisters. This guy is some kind of an environmental worker. He's 56 years, was 56 years old. He lived with his mother out in Sassat, New York, which is one or two towns from one of the places I grew up as a child, North Belmore, and not far from the Gilgo Killer, not far from Massapequa. It's the next town over. Must be a little something going on there. He's got $1 million house, but he was living in that $1 million house with his mother, and he was 56 or 58 years old. The mother died very tragically. By all accounts, the mother was a very, very sweet healthcare worker who was beloved and obviously took care of him like he was a child. He did have incidents that indicated he was mentally ill. Yelling and screaming was heard and stuff like that. But when the family showed up to talk about the sale of the $1 million house, he killed them all. Shot them all dead. And then he shot himself dead. What's his name again? DeLucia?
Get your name up right
I hate to use that name, being a little sensitive as an Italian American, but look, they're all, we all have our burdens. We all have our burdens, every race, every group. We got good people and bad people. And we sure have a couple on the Italian side.
5 dead. Wow. All right. Well, yeah, I'll get some.
I mean, we're
Get
supposed
some
to have
pictures
strong
from-
families, right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Maria, strong family values among Italians. This guy wiped out his sisters. He wiped out the sisters. They look like such nice people too. Did you show their pictures?
We don't have, I mean, we
Okay,
did
we'll show their pictures tomorrow.
have a
I think.
headline. Yeah, we are. We're
I
showing
think
them.
we'll do a little prayer.
doing it now.
Well, how about we do a little prayer for them? I don't know what's left of their family. There probably is something left of their family. I don't know how many children they have. Is that the home?
Yep. 5 people were killed and enslaved.
You know, Ted, it doesn't look like the home in the other picture that I saw. It almost looks like the home almost looks like a mausoleum. Like a big,
This is outside the home. Yeah.
yeah, I'm telling you, there's another picture of it that's quite different. That looks like a typical suburban home. The other had a teeny bit of a mansion look to it.
Yeah. A real estate agent was supposed to meet the family around noon after the mom.
Imagine
had
the real
died.
estate agent showing up and everybody's dead.
Well, she was wasn't able to get there. They closed the street by the time she
I
arrived.
think,
Thank goodness.
I think it was the same real estate agent,
Yeah.
agency that I use.
Yeah.
I think so.
She said one of the children. So this is the real estate agent. One of the children had asked her to meet with the family so they'd know what to do before listing the home, which they estimated was worth about $900,000. They wanted it done quickly because 2 of the family members had come up from Florida for the funeral and were heading back soon. The homeowner identified through public records as Teresa Martha DeLucia
DeLucia, that's it.
died early last week at the age of 95.
And it was supposedly not under any kind of unusual circumstance. She died naturally.
Yeah. 95 years old.
I mean, well, you would have the thought that maybe he killed her. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Oh,
As
yeah.
a bed bug, right?
It appears to be a murder-suicide, Nassau County Police say. We do know that the subject on the front lawn did shoot and kill himself. So I guess that must have been
Yeah, yelling and
son.
screaming, making like a banshee-like yell when he did it, according to the neighbors. And every once in a while, when he was fixing he was a car mechanic
Yeah.
also on the side. I don't know if that's what he was as a profession, but he was an EMT, but he was also an expert with cars. And the house was a mess filled with stuff for cars. And apparently it'd be worth a lot more if it was in better condition. Supposedly a beautiful house, given the condition it's in, worth about $900,000, but probably could be worth upwards of $2 million if it were in good condition. So we're not talking about, peanuts here, although divided among 5 people. And now, who knows? We don't know enough
We'll
except
get more on this and we'll
to speculate about what they knew, what they didn't know.
We'll
But
read more on
certainly
this.
the response is tragic.
We'll read more about it so we have better idea.
Absolutely
All right.
tragic. So we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow. We can count on a couple of things. Joe Biden will remain on vacation. Cackling Kamala will not have an interview. She does say she may have one before the end of the month.
Yeah. Okay.
She's going to be accompanied by her husband, who's become a sex symbol. Did you know that? At the convention, he was considered a sex symbol. Bob Schmidt on Newsmax said he feels bad for women. And I would like to know very delicately how many children the sex symbol really has, because they don't answer that question. So there's something spooky there with the sex symbol. And the other guy, Tampon, I mean, the two guys are like, I don't know. I like to have like a sort of typical representative of the male. Neither one of these guys looks like my idea of a man, but.
All right. Well,
okay.
We'll pick this up tomorrow.
The second gentleman hopefully won't graduate. And I'm not much on sex symbols, but if that's become the male sex symbol, Ted, you're in great shape.
Yeah, right.
I mean, just put Ted on, we're going to get 50,000 women wanting to marry him. Yeah. Compared to Doug, what's the guy's name? Emhoff?
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Doug.
He's Doug Emhoff?
Yeah.
Okay. The one who allegedly had sex with his nanny?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Of course, you didn't know that because that would not be, nor has anyone figured out she was pregnant and something happened to the child. Child alive, dead, aborted, what happened?
Yeah.
We're going to find out. I mean, Trump, we're going back to Bergdorf Goodman. So give me a break. Don't tell me we can't ask when you can go back 17 years, 18 years on an absolutely ridiculous story. But tomorrow we'll be back. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Ukraine. They didn't have to die. Pray for the people who died in Afghanistan. They didn't have to die. Pray for the wisdom of the American people. Pray for the 13 in particular whose lives were lost because of Biden and Harris. And God bless the greatest country on earth. We got the strength. We've got the courage. We've got the principles. We've got the history. And we're coming better than ever. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply